Apologies that this video is coming to you guys a bit later than normal. It's just that I wanted to kind of play throughout the event and all of the tomes before making my decision about whether or not I think that the Halloween event this year was good, was it better than last year's, or anything like that. So if you're new to the channel and you're mostly a person who watches my variety content, you might be a little bit confused, but the Halloween event for Dead by Daylight, or the Haunted by Daylight event, has come, and by the time you're seeing this video has went, because by the time I'm recording this video, it only has about 3 days left. What, Baxter? My cat has come in demanding my attention. I apologize. Anyway, Haunted by Daylight came out, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you off the bat that I was not really a fan of the way they did the event this year. I actually liked last year's Halloween event a lot better. It was a lot less interactive than this event, for sure. This event had a lot more proactivity toward what you were actually able to do with the event resources, you know, the souls and everything. I will say that I'm still enjoying the trinket system that they came up with, something that they started, I believe, in the summer event this year, or was it the anniversary event this year? It was one of those two things, but basically they came up with a trinket currency that you get during the event for doing the tomes and things like that, and that allows you to buy some of the free event cosmetics. I really enjoy that. I also enjoy how they don't force you to play both roles in order to get everything. You can play only one role, only one side, and still have extras by the end of the event, which is insanely great for consumer friendliness. I think that that is amazing. And then at the end of the event, any extra trinkets that you have left over will get converted to blood points, which is always good. So I will say that I still enjoy the trinket system. I still think it's a great way to do things. I think that the earnable cosmetics were actually pretty good. Of course, we have all the candy weapons for the killers. We've got survivor shirts. The new Yunjin and trickster skins look actually really good. So in terms of the cosmetics that was handled, I think it was really good. In terms of the tomes, I also think the tomes were handled fairly well. Instead of having a massive killer track and a massive survivor track, the vast majority of the tomes could be done on either role, with only a handful of stuff being specific to one role, which I think, again, is a great way to do it, and I hope they continue to do that for things like the upcoming Christmas event. I think that as long as they keep tomes that way, tomes were also fairly easy. They weren't like super hard to accomplish. They weren't like incredibly difficult challenges. They gave, I think, kind of a paltry amounts of blood points, but you got rift shards, you know. So I think everything outside of the actual gameplay of the event was really well done. However, I do think that I preferred last year's event gameplay-wise to this one. So while they have more proactivity, the survivors now got this really obnoxious smoke bomb that they could get, and killers got these really like shit ghost power thing that they could get. In general, I don't really enjoy the new void or the new way that things work. So last year, if you went into the void, survivors were exhausted, and if they were injured, they were broken, and killers could not use their powers, but they were undetectable. And so the void was kind of like this dangerous place for survivors to go because they could end up getting killed. And so the solution this year, for some reason, was to keep survivors broken and exhausted and killers undetectable, but give killers the use of their powers back. And in exchange for that, just litter the place in pallets. Just like make the entire void just a gigantic god loop if you run it correctly. I don't. Why did we do that? Why is that a thing? You know what I would literally rather see? I'm not kidding you here. You know what I would rather see next year? I'd rather see you can't attack anybody in the void. I'm not kidding you. I would literally rather see that you can't attack anybody in the void, and the void closes like it did last year. If you remember last year, if all the haunts were fueled up, then the void would close, right? I would literally rather it be that if you are in the void is like a peaceful place for killers and survivors, but it closes at some point. So if you're just in there memeing around in the killer's face and the void suddenly closes and you both pop back out into the real world, then you're like actually under a threat. I don't know how they would counterbalance that, but I would literally rather see that than you have the entire void just be a big god loop where survivors can go. Void teching is of course back, but I didn't really mind void teching that much. I thought it was pretty clever, and it was also kind of difficult to pull off if the killer wasn't, if the killer was expecting it. So I don't really mind void teching, but at least in my opinion, the void was just not as fun this year as it was last year. Another big problem that I had was the blood point gain is much lower this year than it was last year. Last year, you could easily walk away with like 80 to 100,000 a match if you had a dowsing rod equipped. And this year, it just was not like that at all, which makes me a little bit sad, a little bit frustrated. But at least in my opinion, what really made this event not as great as last year's to me was the abilities. The smoke bombs are absolutely obnoxious. They last way too fucking long. You can't see auras or anything when you're in them, and they just weren't a fun time. I detested like going to go after a survivor, having the smoke bomb drop, and then I couldn't find my way out because I can't listen for where the survivor's going, because that was when I brought this up, people were like, oh well, if you just listen. Guys, deaf in one ear over here. I can't hear out the right side of my head. So I couldn't figure out where, and the point is, oh, the survivor can lose you in the smoke bomb. That's the whole point of it. But why does it last for like 30 years? You know what I mean? And then it would just happen multiple times. What would really get my goose is whenever I would like pick up a survivor. I'd pick up a survivor to go to hook them, and then they would just, a smoke bomb would drop, and it'd be like, and then I would have to like navigate through like bumping into stuff. I like, it served its purpose, right? I get that that's the point of it. It served its purpose. Does not mean I had a good time with it, Now, as far as the haunted ghost thing that the killers got, I understand 100% why it had to be nerfed, because in the beginning of the event, you could just get up on a survivor and just insta double tap them by just hitting Q and your basic attack, and you would just down them without, they couldn't do anything. There was no reactability, nothing the survivors could do, and it was really, really stupid. But the nerf made the ghost pretty much worthless. The ghost could not change elevation. So if survivors went upstairs, downstairs, if they went over a window, if they had a pallet that they dropped, the ghost would just stop dead and just make them scream, which is the most useless thing you didn't even get blood points for making survivors scream. Like, what the fuck was that? So it was completely and utterly worthless. So you had to get lucky. There were times where I'd watch a ghost like go out, and it's a slow moving projectile, so it's so easy to dodge, but I would watch the ghost go out, touch the survivor, and then the survivor would move and they just wouldn't get hit by it. Like, after the nerf, the ghost became so utterly worthless as a power, and it had nothing, I mean nothing on the smoke bomb after the nerf. So there's a huge imbalance. Before the nerf, it was way more powerful than the smoke bomb. After the nerf, it was way less powerful than the smoke bomb. So the balance of the powers was off. Like I said, I liked last year. Last year, you would go in, you would feed the haunts. They would come from the void into the actual map, and then if a killer moved through it, they would get hindered. And if a survivor moved through, so if the survivor moved through a haunt that they released, they would get haste. If they moved through a haunt that the killer released, they would get hindered. And then it worked the same way for the killer. If the killer moved through a haunt that they released, they would get haste. And then if they moved through a haunt that the survivor released, they would get hindered, or if I'm remembering that correctly. But basically, you could lay booby traps over the map if you released the haunts in time. And to me, that was a much better breakdown of how the power, that was a much better solution than what we got this year. Like I said, cosmetics wise, tome wise, I think that the Halloween event was great. Blood point gameplay wise, I just didn't like this year compared to last year. Like I said, I just don't think it was a lot of fun this year compared to last year. And I completed all the tomes. It's not like I played like 2 games and left it at that. I did play my fair share of games this year. It just wasn't a good time, you know. It's like I said, the ghosts before the nerf, the ghosts made it too easy. After the nerf, the ghosts were practically useless. I would only ever use them to try to blood point farm, and even then it really wasn't that effective. Like, I was on swamp map and I went to release one, but because they went down a hill, it just instantly stopped and went brah, and they went and then I got nothing out of the deal, like, and then I can't attack for X amount of time if I miss with the ghosts. So yeah, I just didn't like the gameplay in Bloodpoint games this year. I'm kind of disappointed in this year's Haunted by Daylight. Hoping next year will be a little bit better, but yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. And as always, a great big special thank you to my channel members listed on screen now. If you want to find out how to become a channel member today, get awesome perks like seeing videos early, merch discount codes, and more, then please click that join button down below. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Need more Kaiser in your life? Well, I've got you covered. Check out my second channel, The Kaiser Extras, where I upload full gameplays, stream compilations, me reacting to your Dead by Daylight clips, and more. We also upload a daily short with all the greatest clips from stream. We'll see you over there. Link is in the description.